Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my review of Shameless Season 6. Of course, on Showtime, Season 7 is going to be starting this Sunday, and I will be reviewing. I plan on reviewing every episode this coming season, and I finally was able to catch up on all the episodes, so I'm definitely ready to watch the Season 7 premiere Sunday night. Or it is actually available on YouTube right now, as well as on demand, I believe. So you can watch the premiere ahead of time, but definitely tune into the show this season. It's one of the great ones out there right now for sure. But yeah, season 6, pretty fucking insane, like every other season, you know. Of course, Lip's going through a lot of shit. You know, Frank, Fiona, just everyone. You know, Kev ends up being in quite the conundrum with the Veronica and Svetlana situation. And I even liked how the Sean character developed. You know, I think he really turned into kind of a fan favorite character this season. You know, I think he ended up being developed pretty well. And of course, what Frank pulled at the end of the season at the wedding, swear, probably one of the worst things he's ever done. You know, and Frank does shit every season, and I still think back to when he reported the family to Child Protective Services. You know, that's still probably up there for sure. But what he pulled to screw over Sean at the end of the season, I felt was just another new low form. But we can talk about that a little bit later. Ian was also really got a lot of focus this season. I think he was definitely a highlight. Of course, with enduring the stay at the institute. With dealing with his bipolar disorder and such. But then eventually he really gets on the upswing this season, with getting into the Medfield meeting, Caleb. Just really good writing for the character, I think. And Carl and Deb, still probably my least favorite characters on the show. And, I know the show, while feeling like, grittingly realistic at times. I know it's a bit over the top sometimes. I know not everything. I know it has leaps of logic at times and stuff like that too. But I feel like with Carl's whole act of being gangster and drug dealer and stuff like that, I felt like that was a little bit too overboard, almost cheesy in a way. I'm not sure if it was the actor or something like that, but that was probably one of my lesser favorite parts of the season. Although I do like how it affects him when his friend, Nick, ends up killing someone, and how he's sort of traumatized and sort of shaken by that. I do like how they handled that on the show, and how he actually does sort of clean up his act, towards the end of the season. I thought that was portrayed pretty well. I'll give him that. And then with Deb, she's kind of just a frustrating character, really. Like I talked about in my Season 5 review, I think it was. That she was basically just acting like your stereotypical, teen making mistakes and stuff, whereas before she was portrayed as this bright young girl, and really had her head on her shoulders compared to a lot of the rest of the family. So I didn't really like the direction they took Deb, and I still really don't. She was shown to be smarter than this, but then she ends up making the same mistakes as everyone else. I know they're Gallaghers, but still. So their arc sort of frustrated me this season, although I did appreciate Carl's in the later part of it, but Deb, I could still kind of go either way with it. She even ends up overworking herself so much to the point with the baby that she ends up falling asleep and dropping the baby on the floor. I mean, come on. And then she won't let Fiona help, of course. Although I will admit, I won't put all the blame on Deb either, because, with Fiona, how she wanted Deb to abort the baby and such, it goes into that debate, and I don't really want to talk about that too much, but, of course, I definitely don't want the baby just to be, aborted or whatever, but, I just thought the way they went with that was kind of dark. But of course it's Shameless. They're going to go into territories like that, so I definitely did appreciate that. Again, that sense of grittiness and realism to it. and again, people can have contrasting views on that whole subject. You know, it just depends on the environment, the person, and how that person feels, I think. But again, I did like the Sean part of Fiona's story this season. I actually thought that was written really well. It's written well ever since the Sean character was introduced. And I think the actor does a really good job playing him, too. It was unfortunate that Jeffrey Dean Morgan didn't really get to continue that role. You know, I still don't know like the exact reason why Jeffrey Dean Morgan was recast on the show. I'm guessing Jeffrey Dean Morgan just got busy and he couldn't really have that schedule mesh with the other projects he was working on. So I would have loved to have seen Jeffrey Dean Morgan continue in that role. But I think Dermot Mulroney, I think he does a really nice job acting-wise in the role. I've definitely gotten used to him. And again, with what happens to him, of course, he's a recovering addict, and you find out at the end of the season that he's actually been using for a while still. And this, of course, you know, kind of tears apart his relationship with Fiona at the altar. But, you know, I just thought the way Frank brought that up, just because he ended up having this grudge against Sean, and Sean being another character who's actually stood up to Frank. You know, it looked like Frank was actually trying to arrange for him to be killed at one point, which would have been, you know, a different type of territory for the show. Yeah, I just felt like the way that was brought up, it wasn't right. You know, even if Sean was doing wrong, it wasn't really the right time for that. You know, he just ruined his daughter's day, and just as a person, that's just really a wrong way to go about it. And Sean was still a good person. He hadn't done anything yet, but who knows what would have happened, right? But I do hope we do see Sean again in season 7. I hope the character isn't just like written off now, because he said he did have to go see his ex-wife, you know, talk about still being able to keep custody of his son. But I feel like he should still be a character that's around, and hopefully him and Fiona can actually work it out, because you know, as much as I loved Steve, Jimmy, or Jack or whatever with Fiona, I just think the way they handled Fiona and Sean, I could still buy into that, and I don't want there to just be another new character that's introduced or something. And then he had, you know, Gus had a brief role this season as well. He is a likable character, but of course, you know, they had to break things off with their quick wedding and such. And yeah, Gus, you know, kind of turned into a jackass, although you partially can't blame him. You know, there's the whole, you know, the F word, fuck you, Fiona thing. Which you can partially understand, but it was just kind of interesting how they turned him to be such a nice, genuinely good person to just this really, you know, hostile character and such. But again, you can kind of understand his perspective when you think about it too. And then Lip, of course. You know, my brother and I both watched the show, and you know, we talk about how a lot in most seasons it's usually. You know, of course, all characters have shit they're going through or mistakes they're making, but most seasons there's like one that's really going downhill, especially. You know, like Fiona, like season 4, you know, is when she was, you know, sent to prison and such, and, you know, Carl has this bipolar thing going on, and now in season 6, you know, Liv, of course, had, you know, a huge drinking problem, of course, mirroring Frank. And he was doing really well in college, but then there's the whole thing with his professor this season, you know, Helene. And, you know, so in a way there is a slight formula to Shameless, I feel like, although I don't see what character is that's going to be going down the tubes more than others in season 7, but we'll see what they do. But with Lip this season, you know, Lip is still probably one of, if not my favorite character on the show. You know, I did feel for him with the whole professor thing. And it was definitely a dick move by Amanda to send that photo out of the professor, you know, to everyone, you know, ruining her career and Lip's connection with her and such. And it wasn't his fault, but of course he took the brunt of it. And, you know, that's right for, you know, a student and a, you know, teacher to, you know, do whatever. But still, you know, from a fan perspective, I really hated seeing that having to happen. And of course this sent Lip on a complete downward spiral, like I said, his drinking problems, mirroring Frank. And looks like he's being taken into rehab at the end of season 6. I really liked how his other professor has developed, you know, the one he would, you know, work with as an assistant for. I like their relationship together. And it was, you know, of course, really nice of him to, you know, pay for the whole rehab thing as well. And now I want to talk about Ian. And of course, like I said, with Ian, I was really proud of his character this season. Cameron Monaghan just really has become such a fantastic actor. I definitely still enjoy him as Jerome on, or possibly Joker on Gotham, but he's still great as Ian. I'm glad he's staying on the show because he's been able to portray such really layered sides and complex behaviors to the character. And I really liked how he was written this season. From meeting Caleb to him actually dealing with and sort of gaining control over his disease. And getting that job as EMT, I think, is really fitting for the character. It really made sense, and I appreciate how they did that. And speaking of Ian, he did run into Mandy again this season, of course, Emma Greenwald. I really miss the Malkoviches, like a bunch of people. Since I caught up, I watched the season 7 trailer. A bunch of people asking where's Mickey. Of course, Mickey's still being held in jail. He's supposed to be there for 8 years. But it sounds like he might actually have a recurring role in season 7. Maybe characters visiting him or something. I don't know. But I definitely miss the Malkoviches on the show. I think they should bring them back and make them like mainstays, main characters again. I think they need to bring Mandy back. At least she got away from the abusive, boyfriend of hers, but now she's an escort. And Ian had to help her cover something up, to keep her out of getting into more trouble. But I do think they need to bring Mandy back because I definitely miss Mickey and definitely miss Mandy fucking Malkovich. So I really do hope they bring them back in a more mainstay capacity, but we'll see. I don't know how many more seasons Shameless is going to go for, but hopefully another couple at least after season 7. We'll see what they do though. So I did like all the Ian stuff, and it was great seeing Mandy. Definitely want her back. Excuse me. And, with Frank, just shit as usual. Different schemes and such. It's hard to remember them all. And then we see the introduction to Sammy's mother. I think, what was her name? Not Gemma. Why am I thinking Gemma? It's not Sons of Anarchy right now. Why am I thinking about that right now? Anyway, let's see. But anyways, Sammy's mother, ends up, being like very like almost hippie, like as they would say, a hipster. And while Debbie's pregnant, she ends up taking her into this society she has, like run on natural stuff. It's weird to explain. They have this whole like opium farm too, basically, that they're harvesting and such. And then, Frank again, just the shit with Sean, especially their fight. I think it was in episode 10 or 11. I think it might have been 11. It was a bit more violent than I expected, actually pretty intense. And it was nice to see Frank actually trying to help Debbie a little bit this season. But of course, what he pulled just brought him right back down, and now I just almost do not like the character at all, really. William H. Macy still, of course, does a great job playing him. And it's hard to, look at William H. Macy the same way anymore, just because of how well he embodies himself in the character. But, Frank, he's just a character that, for a while, you're almost, like, from a fan perspective, charmed by how he acts and such, but when you care so much about the rest of him, he pulls this over and over and just gets worse and worse. I don't know. And with Carl, like I said, his whole gangster act, I felt like it was a little bit too cheesy, or a little bit too, something about it was kind of off to me. I don't know. But again, I did sort of admire how he sort of came back around by the end of the season. And then he has a relationship with Dominique or whatever. It doesn't seem to be going too well in the season 7 trailer though, but definitely a little bit more well developed than I was expecting. And then with Kev, who's also one of my favorite characters. Of course, he had to deal with these lesbians coming into the community, and then he had this neighbor, of course, that was just like really anti any of that stuff. So he had to sort of try and settle things between that, and at the same time, this guy was using the machine. Kev meant to cut the cord, and then it just sent the whole thing, and basically the guy was paralyzed. And then once Kev actually admits to him that it was him who accidentally cut it, the guy comes after him, and he ends up just burning himself alive, though. So that was definitely unexpected. And then Kev, of course, is put in an awkward position once Veronica starts actually falling for Svetlana in a certain way after their fake marriage to keep her in the country. Veronica's kind of a character I've been frustrated with before too, but Kevin's even more confused than I am, because he hates that his girlfriend is marrying someone else, but at the same time, it's kind of a turn on, right? It looks like they found their common ground with each other, so that's good, right? And yeah, that's most of what I want to talk about this season, though. I'm sure there's definitely stuff I forgot to mention. But really, season 6 is just another really good season of the show all around. Fucking crazy as usual, as it always is with the Gallaghers and Friends. So I really enjoyed it. Shameless is one of my favorite shows out there right now. It's one of the absolute best I've ever seen. Really can't wait to review season 7 as it goes along this year. Of course, starting on Sunday, my review will be out on time. And of course, right after that, my review of The Strain as usual. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's anything in the season I forgot to mention, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to talk about it more with you guys. And, then there's also little things like, Chucky, of course, being talked by Mount Lion and stuff. Just really fun. I really, really love the show, man. So, yeah, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, like, subscribe, and peace.